Hello, welcome to Time to Talk, Time to Market's energy trading podcast, where we break down the latest developments with trading experts and industry leaders. Our guest today is Colin Hartley, CEO of OpenDataDSL. Welcome, Colin. I'm so excited and happy that you have joined us today here on our podcast.
Okay, thanks, Eszter. Yeah, it's great to be here.
Before we jump into any, deep dive into what you do and who OpenDataDSL is, can you tell me a little bit about who is Colin, behind the scenes, and why did you start OpenDataDSL?
I've been a technologist for my whole life. I've been a computer programmer for 40 odd years. I guess my kind of journey with data management started when I worked at Deutsche Bank in London. From there, I worked with the market data team and we built out all of the data loaders for the middle office there. Then I started a company called Datagenic, which initially had a focus around data management of a different kind of data, which is metering data. But then we changed the focus to pricing data within the energy industry. So pricing fundamentals, that kind of thing. So we built the platform. The players around at the time, or I suppose the competitive nature of the industry, was a lot of old, larger legacy systems around at the moment. So we were quite modern. We used a bit of AI magic to build forward curves. And yeah, so I ran that company for 15 years and then we sold it. So I sat around for a little while, about a week or so, and decided I'm not going to retire yet. So then I had this idea in my head for quite a while about writing a programming language. So that's where OpenDataDSL was born out of. It's a 4GL language which is based around data management. So it's kind of like SQL, but with a lot more in it, so more programming capability within it. So then we built the platform around that data language. So the platform obviously was going to be cloud-based because that's where you have to be nowadays. So we built it as a cloud-native platform, which means basically it's not just a server that sits in the cloud. It utilizes all of the world-scale capabilities of the cloud to be able to scale up to any size data business that we want to do.
Could you please, just explain to those parties who are not that familiar with the energy industry as, we are, can you please explain, the concept and the type of data management of, what you have previously had with the company previously called Datagenic, and it's just to really kind of get the full understanding.
So we collect data from all of the exchanges. So this is pricing data and fundamental data. So if you want to know the price of oil, power, gas, or any kind of other commodities around the world at any location and for any future delivery point, that is what we collect. So all of the prices for futures. So not to get too technical, but a future is a price you pay today for a delivery sometime in the future. So if you're buying, let's say, power, and you want to buy power for next August, you can do that today at a set price and it will be delivered for the month of August. So we collect that. We also collect a lot of fundamental data. So that's things like the volume of goods or product that's moving between different places. So, for example, if you've got power moving between different grids or between different countries, so we collect that. That's called fundamental data. And we also collect other things like FX, so foreign exchange data, and weather data. Weather is very influential in the power market specifically for renewable like solar and wind power. So once we've collected all that data, there's a lot of things that we have to do in it because in its raw format, it's generally okay, but we have to add a lot more stuff to it. So a lot of metadata around it to actually describe what it is. So things like what the currency of the resource is, what the units of measurement are, what calendar, so when does it trade, when does it stop trading, when does it deliver, what's the start and end point of its delivery. And then we also do lots of conversions of that data as well, so to put it into a more usable format for any downstream systems. And ultimately, the data will be used generally for a risk system. So to calculate what a company's position is and what their risk of holding that position is.
Wow, thank you so much for explaining that. It's really mind-blowing that there's so much data that you can aggregate in a relatively simple system, obviously, which you have worked on for a really, really long time. But for me, it just sounds like the heavy data can actually be fun to work with. OpenDataDSL has this motto, data without context is just numbers. Can you give us some examples?
The biggest thing that we do would be curve building. So a forward curve is a representation of all of the future deliveries of a particular product. So it could be, let's just take power. So if you take power in Germany at a point in time, you then have, say, 3 years worth of monthly deliveries going out to 3 years in advance. So it's not just the price of the power. You have base power and you have peak power, so the peak times. And what we also need to do then is to calculate what the off-peak power would be, or the off-peak prices would be. And to do that, you need to understand what the peak and off-peak calendars are. So you need to know the time when the peak starts, when the peak ends, and what days it gets attributed to. So, for example, not for weekends or bank holidays. So there's a lot of calendars involved in that in terms of being able to figure that out. So to calculate the off-peak price, it has to then take the number of hours in the month and then divide that out by the price of the base, the price of the peak, the number of peak hours, number of off-peak hours, and to do that calculation. So we do that kind of calculation on the fly for the client. So it's not just the raw data coming in. Raw data is good, but then that added layer of extra information that you can add on there. And that's not just the prices, it's also obviously the calendars as well. The calendars play a very important part of the whole trading infrastructure.
Thank you. So does that mean that, once you have provided a solution, a system to them, you don't let the, hands go and, good luck with this, but you are there for a bit more support and, daily operations as well?
Yes, so we have a team of experts in this field. So they rely on us for not only I guess, the expertise of programming and setting up the system and collecting all the data and defining how to then create that derived data, but also we've got experts in the field of energy. So we understand forward curves, we understand the energy markets, and that helps our clients to be able to achieve exactly what they want to achieve in the end in terms of what they want to be able to push to their risk systems. We also added a lot of reporting into the system as well. So the ability to be able to extract data out in any different format, like CSV, XML, JSON format, or any kind of weird old legacy formats. So the client themselves can define that directly within the platform and then push that down to their downstream systems. So that's a way that the client themselves can get involved in the platform. And so far, they've actually loved doing it because it's quite an interesting part of their job, something new to do.
Absolutely. I absolutely. Um, this brings me to my question. What do you think about the energy industry's approach to data management in general? Like what you have seen out there? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, well, certainly the collection of data has been the same for many, many years. And a lot of the time we struggle with the data vendors not providing the data or providing the data in an incorrect form. So
Hmm.
a lot of time has been spent on just manipulating the input data to be able to put it into the database. We've introduced AI into our
Hmm.
process that helps us to determine when the data is complete. Because understanding when the data is at its fullest completion point is generally the hardest part. You can take, I guess, a simple example where you always expect 20 data points. That's fairly easy to figure out when the data is complete. But that's not how the real world works, unfortunately. Um, with some data vendors, you'll get increasing and decreasing amounts of values based on where you are within the week. So, for example, on a Monday, you can get 14 data points, and by the Friday, you'll only get 10 data points. So, we used to introduce AI to determine all these patterns that the data vendors provide the data. With those patterns, we can use machine learning to understand when the data set is complete. That helps us a lot to be able to understand at what point we can stop trying to capture that data. So in terms of cost effectiveness, it makes a lot of sense to utilize these completeness measures to figure out where you are within the collection cycle.
Wow, this is honestly really exciting to hear that, AI, there has been a lot of buzzwords around it, but now it's here, it's with us, and it's only here to stay, and probably just to improve, getting smarter hour by the hour, and it's really, yeah, amazing to hear that. What mistakes do trading companies make in the way they utilize their data management? What do you think?
Well, I suppose one example would be the buy or build question.
Mm,
So that's always a topic, and it's always a decision that a company has to make. Do we build internally? I mean, they have the access to all their clients, all their users. So do they then build all the data loaders and then feed into their own internal database and then feed their downstream systems, build systems around that database? Or do they go and buy from off the shelf from one of the data vendors out there? And there's not that many that specialize in what we do. There's only a handful of companies that do proper data management systems for the energy industry.
hmm.
So I'd say their biggest mistake is that the building part seems fun at the beginning. When it gets to the point when the users are screaming the data's late because then you have to understand you have to get an operational team in place to handle all of the data changes that do happen and all of the late data that comes in, and then also building out applications that can visualize the data and be able to push data into what the users generally want is into an Excel spreadsheet. So having an Excel add-in that connects to the data to pull it in all the different formats, all different calendars, and all the different size of data that comes in. So maintaining all of that then becomes a heavy maintenance job, a heavy employee maintenance job, so they have to have staff that can be able to operationally handle it as well as build out new functionality. Whereas, of course, with buying the system, that all comes part and parcel of it. The product gets built and expanded, and all the operational side of it is handled for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, look at us. This topic is so relevant. You see over and over and over again, depending on the, type of client, what are you looking at, how ambitious they are, how fast they want to get to the market, how fast, they want to react to the market. Um, and again, it's for us is a no-brainer, and you can see outsourcing is a thing, in all kinds of departments now, really, because you need the right data, you need the right resources, you need the right experience, really. And there is, I guess, in line of more and more participants entering the market, these resources are getting less and less and less. You really have to deal with these solutions in a really smart way. And thank you for mentioning that, because it's a never-ending topic. And I guess if you want to get a fast solution, if you want to get the best value for your company, it's really a no-brainer. Go buy people.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for you and I both, the client should stick to what the client does best and leave
Exactly.
all of that expertise out to yourselves and ourselves to handle what we do best.
Exactly. To move on to Slightly different question. Obviously there's been a lot of parties entering the industry. We at Time to Market, we also, deal with both seasoned parties, but also newcomers. So I'm just curious, how do you at Open Data DSL deal with newcomers?
It's much the same as the established guys. It's generally on a lot smaller scale though, and we also see these guys as a stepping stone because they will get bigger. They will want to enter new markets. They want to trade other products, and we're just there in the background. Then we can add extra functionality for them. It's not only, I guess, the newcomers. It's also guys that have not got a data management system at the moment. So we call those greenfield opportunities. Those guys don't have any legacy system they have to migrate away from. So it generally is easier because you don't have to deal with, I guess, end users that are used to doing things one particular way. So you can guide them into your way of doing things from the start.
Hmm,
And yeah, and you can mold the system around they want to grow as well,
exactly.
which I think is, yeah, it's nice to do.
Ah. Does it also require a little bit more hand-holding and guidance and really getting to the bottom of their core and understanding where are they going? I guess you're also looking at years ahead to be able to deliver the best setup for them, or is it a constant, you know, tweak and perking and changing the systems? How does that work?
It all comes down to, so the data is the data. That doesn't change from when it's a startup or an established player. It's more, I guess, in the startup, if they don't fully know what they want at the time. So they know they need the data and they know the need to feed it into a risk system or to an operational or trading system. Um, but then understanding how they want to do that in terms of the forward curves they want to build,
Hmm.
etc. So we can offer advice, I guess the same as you guys within your industry. We can offer advice based on our experience, and obviously they can take it or not. I mean, ultimately, it's the flexibility of the platform that helps the ability to be
Exactly.
able to create anything the imagination can come up with.
On your website, you mentioned that there is a secret third option. How secret is that? May we viewers get a view into that?
So the third option really is to utilize the tools that we have to kind of do a part build, but then you're buying I guess the essential tools like the database itself and then the front end tools to it. So you can just utilize our system yourselves without using any of our expertise and then yeah, build out your own data loaders to load the data into the database, load then the data feeds to feed down to downstream systems. And then you can also extend and create your own applications on top of our application.
Mm,
Kind of like a hybrid between buy and build. You're buying part of it, but then you're building all the stuff around the way you want to build it.
got it. So you can basically still bring your legacy and build it on the, latest technology system that you are able to provide, basically.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it actually, because it could be that they have some legacy
Right.
already on site and then they want to move into the cloud. So it makes it an easier way of moving into the cloud without having to learn everything and set up everything from scratch.
Exactly. I guess, especially, I suppose, when it comes to the more seasoned participants in the industry who are used to a specific, systems and data management that they are just, to start everything from scratch, maybe a bit too much, but that to get between these two worlds is a solution for them, then uh, it is there.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like a tool set.
We just spoke a little bit about AI, and just to shift back, because I had a question that I would like to ask you. You know, I mean, AI has been with us for the past few years. It's been, big data and Internet of Things, blockchain. I mean, God, we've seen it all. Um, what changes do you expect if we look at the next, I don't know, 2, 3, 5? 10 years? How will this explode?
Obviously, ChatGPT, I guess, is the big topic at the moment. So we were actually looking at this at Datagenic about 8 years ago. It's natural language processing. So what you basically do is the computer understands what somebody's saying and then tries to interpret it and do something with it. We weren't using it for the kind of things that ChatGPT were doing. We're using it for sentiment analysis.
Mm-hmm.
So taking news feeds like it was Twitter at the time. So just capturing any news based around the subject matter that we were thinking of. And then using NLP to analyze, is that a positive message or is it a negative message? With the basic premise that any positive messages are good for the market, that will make the price go up, and every negative messages will make the price go down. And we found it to be fairly successful. It followed the price fairly closely. So we went around to quite a few clients showing this. Unfortunately, I think we were still a bit too early at that point in time, but it's certainly something I think for the future. So you can use obviously algo trading, which does use sentiment analysis already. So that is an extra tool that you can use on top of all of your, I guess, your technical analysis of trading. And it sits as another tool in the toolbox for the speculative trader. It is so vast, in terms of the amount of things that you can do. You mentioned quite a lot there. Machine learning is something that I worked on quite a bit as well. I looked at it in terms of categorization of things. That's basically how we're doing this completeness checks within our own data. But categorization of things it's what it's very, very good at, machine learning. So if you give it a set of rules and a lot of sample data to be able to work from, you can then throw a lot of data at it and it will then auto-categorize that information.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I guess we're looking at doing a lot of our master data management in terms of being able to, say, throw data at it and then it'll analyze it and then determine this is very similar to this other data over here. So this is how we will categorize it. Yeah, I mean, we're looking at other areas such as quality management as well. So if price changes are outside of a certain threshold, we can use typical mathematical algorithms to be able to determine those things, but also it'd be nice to use kind of categorization or machine learning to be able to understand whether any smaller changes that are affected by not necessarily the price itself, but other factors around it that might have caused a particular spike or drop in a price. So all those things are things, I guess, for the near future.
I guess you will, never stop working because you have to keep up with the trends, you have to keep improving your systems, you come up with new ideas. So it's a continuous game. I suppose that's why open data DSL exists today as well.
Well, exactly. That's the passion. That's what we love. We love these new technologies. We love embracing AI and cloud technologies because it is the future. It's the way things are going.
Exactly. And from our perspective as well, we love to collaborate with companies such as yours who are innovative and bring really the newest trends and ideas and their passion to the industry and to really create value out there to support your clients and to grow with them as well at the same time. I think it's so amazing, and we can only just cheer you on this journey. And Colin, I guess, I don't want to steal a lot of your time. I just, I always ask this question from all our guests, and I'm curious, what do you think? What advice would you give to companies entering the energy markets?
Get a good data management system, number one.
Woo! When it comes to the open data DSL, how does it, for those who are, maybe not as familiar with the different infrastructure a trading company needs to have in a very good scenario. Where is it on the shelf? We have our ETRM systems, we have all the other solutions that you probably will need at some point. Where is OpenDataDSL? Can you walk me through that?
Yeah, sure. So the data management system generally fits in the mid to back office. The data that's placed into the data management system is generally used by risk, so in the risk department, by analysts, so to look at market trends and look at potential opportunities that are available. Into accounting as well. So we feed, for example, invoicing systems, so the prices are based on that. And operations, so for example, if you have short-term power where they need to understand the weather information, so the wind, to be able to calculate how much generation they'll get. So with the wind forecasts, calculate the generation that they will get from particular wind farms. That feeds into operation. So as the weather forecasts change during the day, we can then feed their big screens in the operations center to be able to give them a heads up on when things change.
Mm-hmm.
So it has tentacles all throughout the clients.
The whole
That's
chain.
generally why they don't change them very often.
Mm-hmm. Got it. But so it also supports internal processes, but also obviously in the external solutions. So if let's say I am a trading company with a small one that I would like to enter the energy industry, uh, through which process of my, establishment should I consider, acquiring such a solution?
So if you're a trader, it generally wouldn't be used apart from potentially getting market prices in. So front office generally wouldn't use our specific system. We don't generally feed any real-time data to systems. So we're generally kind of the end of day settlement information that handles the back office and risk. Traders generally feed into the system.
Mm-hmm.
So a trader would put together their particular forward curve. So they're obviously closer to the market than
Mm-hmm.
anybody else within the company. So they would have a good feel for where the prices are at the time. So they actually act as a good input into our system. Then the risk can use that in combination with the market prices, so they can fill in any particular gaps that are not very liquid. So the exchanges give you a set of prices, but sometimes the prices aren't very, or the market movements aren't very liquid, so you don't get very good prices. And that is where a trader can come in handy. The trader is close to it, so he has a good feel for where the price is supposed to be. But of course, you've got to be wary of that.
Thank you so much, Colin Hartley from OpenDataDSL, for joining us today. We're really, really grateful that you took the time to explain the solutions. People, feel free to reach out to Colin or Renato from OpenDataDSL, and we look forward to, collaborating with you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eszter. We certainly look forward to collaborating as well. Thank you.